Hello and welcome to the Agency Leadership Podcast. I'm Chip
OMG.
Griffin. The topic today, naturally, is Are Things Slowing Down? Just like I was, right after this. Perhaps
The
one of my
best.
worst openings yet, but
No,
hey,
actually, I was going to say the best part about your openings is I never know what's coming. So
neither do I. I mean,
when you did that, I was like, what's happening right now?
I was just thinking in my head, slow down. How can I? Oh, I can just speak slowly. There
Yeah,
we go.
there you go.
So in the
I
moment,
love it. I love it.
this gives listeners a window into how my mind works, and
Mhm.
it's pretty disturbing at times.
It is, but that's
So,
okay. That's why we love you.
in any case, we are going to talk about whether or not things are starting to slow down for agencies because, I mean, we've been being asked this question since before the pandemic, during the pandemic, after the pandemic. And it's picking up steam yet again. More and more people are asking about it. I think you saw a tweet about it recently that spurred us to think, well, maybe this is a topic worth considering. Are things slowing down?
I read an article last week or in the last couple of weeks that said economists really expect that we're not going to escape 2023 without a recession. Everything points to one. I mean, we have inflation, we have the war continues in Europe. They've cut oil production costs, like all of this stuff is happening. And eventually consumer spending is going to slow, which means the rest of spending slows too. We had all those tech layoffs. I think everything definitely points to a recession. And according to this article I read in the journal last week, the economists say, yeah, 2023 is the year.
Well, I think one of the challenges is the last couple of years, by and large, for agencies has been pretty good.
Yeah.
O'Dwyer's in their annual report came out and said that 2022 growth on average was 18% for PR agencies. That's pretty strong average growth across the board.
Yeah.
And so when you part of it is that's just not sustainable generally for long periods of time for any kind of business, right? You don't have that kind of organic growth just on a routine basis. So you're going to have some pullback probably regardless of what the macroeconomic conditions are, whether or not there's a recession or anything like that. But I think the real question to me is not, is there going to be a recession? Because that's largely irrelevant. It's what is the behavior of agency clients and prospects? Because I think what I'm seeing is that, particularly in certain sectors like tech, clients are becoming far more cautious with their spending.
Yes.
And so even though the indicators are that we clearly are not currently in a recession, the behavior is still acting out of some degree of fear, concern, risk mitigation on the part of clients. And that's really what matters to an agency, not what the macroeconomic conditions are, not what some economist comes out and tells you is true or false. It's what are you seeing with your own prospects?
There was a chief executive survey of chief marketing officers, and I'm not going to get the numbers exactly right because I don't have it in front of me, but essentially it was like 70 something percent of marketers said, yeah, we're seeing budget constraints. We're having our CEOs ask us to do more with less. We're having to pivot some of our things, on things that we were testing out or taking a little bit of risk on. We've been asked to pull back on. So I think it was at least 3/4 of chief marketing officers said, yeah, things are starting to slow down for sure.
And I can tell you, based on the conversations that I'm having with agency owners, anyone who is in the tech space, for example, they are absolutely seeing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A slowdown across the board. I think we're generally seeing longer sales cycles. So even for those agencies that haven't lost business or aren't seeing a decrease in their pipeline, the pipeline is taking longer to close. So there is some degree of general pullback, but as I've said repeatedly, it really does depend on who you're serving, because even in the worst economic times, there are still agencies that will do well because they're working with clients who continue to need and are continuing to be willing to spend. And I think right now, for example, I'm seeing that agencies who are doing things where it involves people being outside of the home or the office are generally doing better than others. So if you're an agency that's focused on events or focused on travel or fashion or things like anything that is not video camera related and not
Mhm,
in
mhm.
work from home related, those are tending to do better because there is still 3 years on this desire for people to spend more time out and about. and
Mhm.
and I think
Mhm.
particularly as we've seen the health emergency completely removed nationally here in the U.S., that is causing more people to say, "Hey, yeah, let's start traveling again. Let's do more things." And so agencies that are serving those spaces are more likely to continue to see business flowing, and that's certainly what I'm observing.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, I will tell you, what we're facing as my agency is facing is we have in the past 6 or 7 weeks, we've probably helped 5 clients message layoffs appropriately. So clients are doing layoffs. I was on the phone with a VP of sales for one of our clients last week, and he was like, "Man, things have slowed down big time here." So, when you combine all that stuff, it hasn't hit us as an agency yet. But when I look at that and I say, "Okay, we've helped message and we've helped do some layoffs and make sure that that was all done appropriately," and then other clients are saying things have really slowed down, it's coming, and we're just I don't know when the shoe's going to drop, but the shoe will drop.
Yeah, I mean, but again, we've said this before. People need to be careful not to overreact.
Yeah.
And so, you need to be flexible, you need to be nimble, you need to be listening, but don't go and make your own decisions out of fear, right?
Right,
Because
right, right. Yeah.
part of the problem here is that businesses are making decisions based on what they think might happen,
Hmm.
but that then turns it into that self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
Because if we all pull back and we all cut back on our spending because we think that something bad is going to happen, we've essentially caused that bad thing to happen.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you got to be careful. You don't want to stick your head in the sand and wait too long to make changes and all of that. But at the same time, observe what's really happening around you and make decisions based on that, not based on some, not imaginary, but some theoretical fear that you could have a problem down the road.
Yeah. And one of the things I always say to our clients is let's do some crisis planning. Let's do some, if this, then that. So
Right.
if you lose one client, what happens? If you lose 2 clients, what happens? Like, let's do some of that kind of planning to understand what the triggers are for you to have to make some changes on your own. If you're helping message layoffs and a couple of clients are talking about how slow it is for them, but nothing has affected you yet, pay attention, right? So that's your if this, then that scenario there. But if the 5 clients that have made layoffs now want to reduce your budget, okay, then there's something that you're going to have to do some tightening. I mean, like, we're going to have to tighten our belts. So we, do that scenario planning so that you're prepared. But to your point, don't make decisions or do things out of fear just because you think it's going to happen.
And since this is a recurring topic, I will give the same advice that I always give, which is also look for opportunity.
Yeah.
Don't look at these things as just, oh my God, my clients are cutting back. Instead, think about it. How can you better position yourself to deliver the services that your target market does need, does want, is willing to pay for? How do you make it so that it's a much more compelling value proposition for them? These are things that will serve you well regardless of what happens in the broader economy, but they are also things that will help you short term if you're starting to spot those things. Things like, if an organization has had layoffs, can you do things to help them
Yep.
bridge their resource gap? Because they still have things that need to be done, even if
Yep.
they're shorter staffed. How do you make sure that you're positioning yourself so that you are not viewed as a threat by the internal employees who remain?
Yep.
You don't want to be in a position where people think, well, if I hire them, they're just going to take over what I do, and so therefore I'm not going to have a job.
Right.
And so you need to be realistic about the way that people view all of these things. Everybody views it through a lens as far as what does it mean for me? And that's true of individuals within companies. It's true of the brands collectively based on the people who are running them. It's true for you and your team too. And so think about those selfish motivations that exist and how you can try to position yourself to better navigate that world rather than the ideal one you think you ought to live in.
And, we talked last week about project work. So there might be opportunities for you to do that kind of thing too, where you say, okay, I understand that we have to pull back on budget and we can't continue with our retainer. Here are some things we think we can help you with, and they have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So,
Right.
Think of be flexible and creative in those kinds of opportunities as well.
And if you've got clients who are looking at things in terms of, geez, I need to pull back because of the risk of a recession, how can you de-risk things for them? And project-based work is a great way to de-risk. Also, not insisting on long-term contracts can be a good way to de-risk.
Yep.
And so now maybe if your general mindset is I always want to do 1-year deals, maybe now is where you back off from that a little bit. And you're willing to be flexible on that. Don't be flexible on how much you charge for the work you do. You don't want to use this as something where you're like, oh, well, I'll just keep cutting back my profit margin to keep business. Don't do that. Don't do that. Now you've set yourself further back. But you can look at other portions of the deal to de-risk it, and that can be the length of the term. It can be the size of the project, as long as you're maintaining margin. And when you cut your price, you're also cutting the work that you do commensurately. You can be in a much better place over time, and you can be more appealing than some of the other agencies that maybe are not as willing to be flexible like that.
Yeah. In fact, when the pandemic hit, I had several clients say, the terms on your contracts kind of scare us, because at the time they were year-long contracts. And we were all in a fluster at that point, and I was like, listen, let's not worry about that. Like, if you have to go we have to go our separate ways, or we have to take a break, or whatever happens to be, that it is what it is. And because of that, we did lose a couple of clients, but they came back because of that flexibility. And the two that came back said, we came back because you were so willing to work with us during a really rough time. I mean, it was, so granted, it was rough for everybody, but I think if you can show that kind of flexibility and willingness to work with clients, they are going to remember that. And they're going to remember that when times are good and they're ready to rehire for certain things.
Right. And I mean, this is also the time where, when it comes to de-risking things, you may want to think about things that have more short-term value versus long-term value. It doesn't mean you should ignore the long-term, but we all know that a lot of the work that we do in agency land can take a long time to really pay off.
Sure.
And so we may want to think of ways that we can get more quick wins for clients. We don't want to neglect the long term, and we don't want to do things that are penny wise, pound foolish, that help us today but hurt us tomorrow. But if you can lead with the things that have those short-term victories, that's going to be much more appealing to a client who is in a low-risk, husband my resources mode versus someone who's like, yeah, sure, let's spend everything.
I would really like those clients.
Which does happen sometimes. I mean, there are frothy times for agencies where people are like, yeah, let's give it a flyer. Let's try that. Let's do all these different things. I don't think it's the smartest move either, but
nor do I.
There's a happy
sounds amazing.
But when a client comes to me and wants to do that, I've never said no. I mean,
right?
I don't say, oh no, I'm sorry, I will not take your money.
No, sorry, keep your money. Don't want it.
Right.
Yeah.
So look for those opportunities if you are seeing things slow down, because there's no reason why slowing down has to be something that just kind of continues. You can arrest that slowdown if you are being thoughtful about how you manage your own business.
That's right. And if you're having conversations like I did with the VP of sales last week, I have that conversation every week with him, and he's really open and honest with me about, how the work that we're doing is affecting his work and how we're partnering. I mean, we have a great relationship from that perspective. And when we have those kinds of conversations, it's easier for me and my team to go, okay, well, we've been wanting to do X, Y, and Z, and we just haven't had the time or the budget. What if we scaled back on the things that we're doing, on a couple of things here, because we know that's going to help them progress the way that they need to right now. And it allows us to continue to work with that client without having to worry about budget constraints.
Right. Absolutely. And, if you are actually out there and listening to people, and you're actually looking at how your business is performing, this can actually be an opportunity for you to try new things. It can
Yep.
be something that lights a fire underneath you to do things that you probably should have been
Yep.
doing anyway.
Yes.
I've talked with a number of agency owners who are like, yeah, my clients are pulling back. I guess I really need to be getting out there and having more conversations with folks.
Perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, you should do those things when times are good too, so that you're
Correct.
not going forward from a standing start. But look, if that's what it takes to light that fire underneath you, get you moving forward, do it. Just don't sit there and wallow. Sit there and say, okay, what's my plan? What am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do today that will help move the ball forward? And a lot of that is just having as many conversations with as many people as possible, because you don't know where that next opportunity is going to come from. And if you spend all your time trying to plan and target and figure out exactly who to talk to, just get started. Just get out there and start talking to people. 1, 2, 3 new people every day. Good things will
And
happen.
to that point, as we know, I'm a big proponent of passive income. And people say to me all the time, oh, I need to create some sort of passive income. I need to do it. I need to do it. I need to do it. And finally, when something like this happens and things slow down, first of all, you have time. But secondly, it becomes an emergency, right? So now you can take this opportunity to say, okay, I have a little bit of extra time because we don't have as much client work to do. I'm going to create my passive income opportunities, because those are the kinds of things that will save you during downturns. Every time they'll save you.
Yes, the one thing that I will say is those passive income opportunities are not your short-term solution.
No.
So one of the mistakes that I see folks make is they say, oh, my core business is slowing down. Let me go work on this new initiative. Let me go.
Yeah, no, it's not a short.
Get your core business in good shape before you start looking at
Yes.
adding other things.
Yes.
There's nothing worse than trying to work on two things that are struggling at the same time. Have one that's firing on all cylinders, throwing off good cash, you're happy with how it is, and then spend your time working on those other things. So if you don't already have them in place, they're probably not your 2023 solution. Doesn't mean you shouldn't devote some resources to them if things are going well for you.
Yep.
But if you've already started to see that pullback, don't spend your time on that. Spend your time on the core business and get that ship shape first.
Yeah, you're right. It will not save you, which is why I always say to people, like, you should have started this 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
And it can be really appealing to say, okay, my core business, let me go work on this other thing.
Yep.
But the problem is that almost all of those other things take time to ramp up. And if you're worried about the core and you're worried about getting that to ramp up at the same time, it increases your stress, it increases your team's stress, it leads to really bad decision making, because at some point you say, oh God, I really should have paid attention to the core. Now I need to just get revenue in. And I don't even care what revenue is. I don't care whether it's profitable or not. I don't care if it's a good fit client. We're just taking it on anyway.
Yeah.
So be smart
Yes.
in your decision making.
Be smart
today and always.
Yes. Do your scenario planning. Really think about, if this happens, then we're going to do this. And, think about it, and think about, tiny things that can happen, and think about catastrophic things that can happen. So, and be prepared for those things.
And we know you're making smart decisions because you chose to listen to this episode of the Agency
That's
Leadership Podcast all the way to the end here. And so that will draw this episode to a close. I'm Chip Griffin.
I'm Ginny Dietrich.
And it depends.